Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and our lives. Welcome to the place where chronically means healthy, wealthy, joyful, and ridiculously alive. Let's flip the script together. Today, I am so happy to welcome our guest, Kay Crystal Griffith, who is the medical mom warrior. She is the founder of Medical Mom Warriors, TM. She is a medical stability strategist, four-time international best-selling author, speaker, and advocate. Through faith, practical systems, and trauma-informed support, she helps medical moms and chronically ill adults turn medical chaos into real stability so they don't have to carry everything alone. And her topic today is when God builds purpose through chaos. Welcome, 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 Crystal.
Hello, everybody. Is everybody ready for a little relief conversation so we can all be chronically healthy and relieved that we don't have chaos?
I think everybody could probably say, yup, yes, please, to that one. So, Crystal, so medical mom warrior, I love that. I love that. Tell us something of your journey. How did you get to be a mom warrior?
Well, let's just say I didn't purpose that as my career, that's for sure. I think oftentimes we end up being medical warriors by fluke, by some thrusting of an accident. For me, it was a car accident. And suddenly your life is not just topsy-turvy, but inside out and never goes back to what we think is normal, which I think is a highly overrated term, by the way. Nothing's normal, right? Let's just be real.
Totally agree with that.
I know, it's craziness. For me, I was in this ridiculous car accident, and 2 days later woke up with these headaches that I'd never experienced in my whole life. 4 months into a brand new marriage, had a PhD looming in January that I was going to go get, and now I didn't even know what my name was. Couldn't have told you what my birthday was. Couldn't have told you anything.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty life altering for sure.
Concussion, TBI, traumatic brain injury.
Traumatic brain injury. Yep. So they actually 2 weeks later, I had some internal bleeding as well. They finally did an MRI. Back then, 30 years ago, TBIs were not a thing really. Like, oh, you got a headache? You should go home and sleep that off. Let me pat you on the leg and tell you it'll be okay and gaslight you for the next 48 doctors because it's all in your head. I'm like, yes, literally, it is in my head. Make it stop.
Especially if you're a woman.
Right? Yeah, we want to get started on the menopause drama, right?
No,
Anyways,
that's not our topic today.
that's a conversation for another day, but we should come back to that one because that's an important one. Yeah, so the short version was I saw 48 doctors, and only one of them really could help me even take the edge off of this ridiculous pain. And in hindsight, now that we've gained all this knowledge around brain injuries 30 years later, we have realized I had a migraine that sat at the top of my head. And then I would have another migraine superimposed on top of it. So it literally would basically paralyze my brain from even contemplating anything. And, you know, when we have these moments like that, and they totally changed your life. They changed my little marriage. It opened doors to many things in marriage I was not expecting to have to deal with, and changed my personality. You do find opportunities to change the world in ways that you didn't know you were doing it in the moment. I was a researcher, and so I happened in a magazine when they still had those in print so rare today, right? And there was a research study about an hour and a half away from where we were living on the Gulf Coast. And it said, hey, if you have XYZ, you should get applied to this study. And I'm like, well, I'll take anything. Like, I was so desperate to get out of pain. And so I applied, they took me, and it was the very initial research study for what we now know as neurofeedback. And so neurofeedback is transforming veterans' lives, people with PTSD, people with migraines, so many different things that neurofeedback supports and helps. And I was one of the very first participants of that. And so it's always exciting to realize that our pain does have purpose, even though we may not see it in the middle of it.
That could be very tough because you can't focus on anything but the pain in the moment. So, um, how long did you live with this pain before you were accepted to the study?
I actually had that, so let's see, September, and I was admitted to that program probably about a year later. I found it in the magazine. It was actually the Headache Foundation magazine newsletter. Actually, is what it was called. It wasn't even a magazine, and they were doing them in Pensacola. We were in Biloxi at the time. My ex then had gone in the military to try and get me health insurance because I couldn't even get health insurance at that point. And so I would make this trek 3 times a week to get all these electrodes on my head and get that done. And I think part of that journey of researching, advocating, looking for answers, thinking outside the box, those are the big 4 really. They help prepare me for something I never knew was coming, which after 10 years of infertility, my little living miracle arrived, and she had massive medical issues.
Oh no.
And so at first, it didn't seem like it. She was what they call footling breech, 1 foot up, 1 foot down. When they were checking for her, they're like, oh, she's already turned. She's ready to pop out any day. Well, they only ever felt 1 foot. They never felt for the 2nd foot. So, God bless my child. So she wants to do things on her own time frame. So we had a scheduled C-section for 7:30, and at midnight prior, my water broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was going to come out a little sooner than the scheduled.
I was going to tell her what to do.
Nope. Still, she'll be 21 in 2 weeks, and I still can't tell that child what to do. Yeah, God bless her. So that kind of started our little journey. She came out jaundice, which is not unheard of to be having a kid in the Rockies. That's kind of a norm, although I'm not claiming that for anybody, but that does tend to happen a little more at the higher altitudes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was okay. Put her in some sun. She perked right up. But then at 9 months, we gave her the tiniest little piece of egg, about maybe half the size of my pinky nail, and anaphylaxis set in. I didn't even know what anaphylaxis was.
Oh.
And we, again, not having a clue what we were dealing with at the moment, were driving from the restaurant onto the base because that was the closest hospital. And they're stopping us at the gate, and we're trying to explain our kid's turning blue. You got to let us on the base. And we get there, and they're like, oh, yeah, so your kid has food allergies. And we're like, our kid has what? She's 9 months old. Yeah, she's going to need an EpiPen. I'm sorry, what? What is that? And how do you want us to use what on our child? Like,
Yeah.
so many new things that you learn along the way. And today, she has 28 diagnoses, and multiple of them are lifelong, life-altering, although we know God's got some promises in there that say otherwise. But oftentimes when we live a life in a broken body, it does happen. We have to hold in tension the gratitude of we are alive and there is purpose in that pain that we were just talking about, with this broken body, and holding in between there the promise that God says we're healed. So It's a daily walk, sometimes moment by moment.
So, I want to back up a little because there are questions popping into my head here. So, you were doing a doctorate, did you say? A
I had
doc
been accepted to Boston University for their doctorate program, and I had to lay it down because I couldn't even tell you my name.
in what were you intending to do?
I was actually going into seminary.
Oh, okay. And then you never went back to it through your
Nope.
just
It
okay.
was it was interestingly enough, when you have these moments that change your whole life, they give you a lot to think on, and you really begin to realize that your purpose can be fulfilled in other ways. And I never would have even thought about medical mom warriors or caregiving or chronically ill or any of that had I not lived it, walked it, served in it, right? And God just brings people out of the woodwork for me to partner with.
So you've experienced caregiving on both sides then, because obviously someone had to caregive you. You were in traumatic brain
Yeah,
injury territory,
you
and
would think, but let's add a third component to that. Those who have to caregive for themselves.
oh,
Because unfortunately, there are situations where you're in marriages where the spouse does not show up for that,
mhm.
unfortunately. And had for me multiple opportunities because I also had cancer. And I was supposed to be in a wheelchair for life. Lovely $25,000 wheelchair. And, there are times where some people, there's no excuse for it, but they don't show up well in those moments. And so you do have to survive your life to the best of your ability as your own caregiver.
So I'm assuming you're not married to the same person then, with the
No.
same different person who's the father of
I,
your
I
daughter.
am not married at all. No, that was the father of my child.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep, I stayed 24 years. And you remember those little journeys of moments, purpose in the pain? My purpose ended up being what they call a 20-20-20 spouse, and I got to keep my health insurance for life. So
Oh,
there you go.
smart. Smart.
So
Yeah.
there we are. My purpose in the pain. How about that?
So it's you and your daughter then,
Yes.
together. Okay. And so how, egg allergies, I'm assuming there's other food allergies. Usually there.
Oh, yes, many. And she's celiac. So there's a whole gluten aspect to that. That's not just because she doesn't want to eat it. She would love to have a regular cake occasionally, but that's not in her wheelhouse.
Right.
And then there's a variety of other, she has something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue issue. And connective tissue is throughout your whole body, including your blood. Many people do not know that, as well as your brain. And so it becomes very loose and shreds. And then on the other side of that, one of her more recent diagnoses is called crest scleroderma. And that's a hardening of your organs. It's actually what Tom Hanks's sister died from, was scleroderma. So she has this connective tissue that's shredding and loose, and then she has this scleroderma that's hardening the organs. It's quite an interesting little conversation those two have all the time. And then she has several other things happening as well.
So between your journey and your daughter's journey, you you became a medical mom warrior because you had to.
I did not have a choice. I really did not. And fortunately, because of those skills that I had to learn for myself, I was able to bring to her. And she had a lot of late diagnoses for the things that we did find out about. She's had 13 diagnosed concussions from balance and spatial issues. And one of the big proponents that I would love to share with your audience is, please, 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 when you have a kid, please go and get OT and PT evaluations. because you do not know what you do not know about your kid. I wish somebody had told me that. We could have had so much more help and resources available for my child at such a younger age. And instead, we didn't know she had these balance and spatial issues. And that's what was causing, some of these issues to create those particular concussions. And so once she got diagnosed, she was able to get a very special orthotic, and the child had been wanting to ride her bike forever, and we could not get her off the training wheels. Like, she just couldn't get that balance rhythm going. Again, we didn't know what we didn't know. We put her in those orthotics. It was a Friday afternoon. I so clearly remember this. We put her in the orthotics at like 1 o'clock. By 4 o'clock, that child was riding without training wheels. It was
Oh,
unbelievable, night and day. And I'm like, oh, why didn't somebody tell me about these things?
so how young, or how obviously?
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing coolness.
Obviously, with an infant, you can't do OT and PT. But what age would you suggest that people get those evaluations? 4 or 5?
I actually would start closer to 2.
Okay.
There are actually many children that can get those done even as babies. I have one client who her kiddo was 18 months, and they just couldn't get the head shaped properly. Every time he'd lay on the back, it would go to flat. And so he actually needed a helmet, and he was just shy of 18 months. So I think there are opportunities to have those OT and PT evaluations, and especially with spectrum issues, especially with girls, which my kiddo was a very late diagnosis for.
Let's pause that thought, because let's go deeper with that. But right now, we're going to take a quick break. So stay tuned, everybody.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness, Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. It's time to unlock your inner glow with coolness. Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today. Why do 98...
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. We are here with our guest, Crystal Griffith, the medical mom warrior herself. And we were just touching on something I think that a lot of parents really, this checking, making sure, giving our kids the best possible everything that we can provide. So you started to say, when I rudely interrupted you, about someone, if you think they're on a spectrum. So let's go into that. If you suspect there's spectrum involvement there.
Absolutely. And most of the time, because new parents don't know what they don't know, as we were just talking about, when you take them for that initial OT and PT evaluations, they can also really identify who's on the spectrum and who's not. And I wish I had known that they could do that. Now, they can't provide a diagnosis, let's just be clear, but they absolutely can say, oh no, your kid probably is, you need to go see a developmental pediatrician, or you need to have them psychologically evaluated for ADHD or autism on the spectrum. And so, because we didn't know, the PT and OT that my child were seeing never said anything to us. We just all assumed it was some of her quirks were from the concussions. It took until the end of third grade that somebody happened to mention to me, hey, you know, your kid's got ADHD. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And then I asked the teachers, I'm like, do you think Katie has ADHD? They're like, oh, yeah. And twice on any day that ends in Y. Yes. I'm like, oh, I'm a sub in your school. You never thought to share this with me? I see you every day. What is happening here? And we were able to get her initially tested through an RX Learning Center. They're nationwide. And I'm not an ambassador or anything for them, but they did excellent work. We learned out not only did she have ADHD, she was what they call twice gifted. So her IQ was super crazy high, 147. And I'm like, holy moly, what would it have been had she not had all these concussions? Like, I'm like, I don't think I can keep up with my child. Great. So, you know, I would just encourage parents to get that OTPT evaluations early on. Ask the questions, are they seeing things that might suggest a spectrum disorders? ADHD is on the spectrum disorder. A lot of people don't know that. But you can also be diagnosed with what we used to call Asperger's, which Katie also was diagnosed with that 4 years after she was diagnosed with ADHD. And the same person diagnosed both of them. And she actually apologized to me. She was a Psi D. And she said, Crystal, if I knew back then what we know about girls on the spectrum, she's Asperger's big time. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it, you know,
It's
as they
different for girls
say,
and
knowledge is power.
boys. Yeah, because it would be different for girls and boys naturally.
Mhm.
Everything's different for girls and boys. Yeah. Well, we do the best we can.
Exactly. Exactly. And we're not going to get it all right. And, you know, that's why they make therapy for all the things that we screw up as parents, right? Like, let's just be real.
Uh, yeah, I think kids are pretty resilient when they know you're there for them. Making mistakes isn't really the issue. It's being present and you're there for them. They know. Kids know. They know it for their teachers too. They know which teachers are really there for them and which ones are just like phoning it in and collecting a paycheck. They know. And so, yeah. So then now so then you started, okay, so here these things are all happening.
Hmm.
So you started hunting for answers.
That's a
So,
good way to put it. Yep. I was playing Sherlock Holmes for a lot of things that with all of her allergies, we are never and could never be the family that went in and said, give us a pill to fix it. Now, there's nothing wrong with those families. There's nothing wrong with them. It's not the avenue we choose. We try to do as holistic as possible. We were seeing functional nutritionists all through her childhood. And, you know, interestingly enough, after being on many of those supplements for a number of years, I started finding supplements in the most random places going, shouldn't these be in your stomach? Why are they hiding in my car door? And why are they in your backpack? And why are they behind the books? And do you know how much money these supplements cost? And so it's somewhere around 6, 7 years of being on these supplements. You know, the buy-in was not quite there from the child anymore. And, you know, in reality, I have seen things kind of regress a little bit in different functionality that I didn't realize those supplements were supporting. And you can see a lot of things in hindsight. It's always 2020. I also have a kiddo, again, who's about to be 21 and gets to make some adult decisions on how she wants to treat her body and her life. I've kept her alive for this long. That was the goal, for her to be able to have autonomy as much as possible. But, we do our best. I've got the credit card bills to prove it, how many functional doctors we've seen. Oh boy, do I. But as your podcast talks about, chronically healthy life, right? We often think chronically ill, but if we're trying not to be ill, we're then the opposite, trying to be healthy, right? We're trying to get relief, which you and I had talked about at the top of this podcast, because relief brings stability, it brings rest, it brings hope. One of my key phrases is fierce hope. And fierce hope is not about what we just think could be, but it's how do we develop a foundation of strength and stability and relief through systems, tools, and supports, that some of which we've talked about, getting OT and PT involved, getting evaluations done, learning you can fire your doctor. That's really important. We just had to have a 4-hour conversation with Medicaid today because we have to go see a GI in another state. Well, she has traditional insurance and she has Medicaid because she's on disability. And so that means Medicaid doesn't cross lines unless you get special approval. So you have to get all that in play. And oh, by the way, it was a cancellation appointment. So we don't have the traditional 90 days to figure this out. You have 3 or 4 days to figure all this out to get it going. Another helpful hint that I learned today is you can request reimbursement for hotel if you go out a certain duration of time and you're on Medicaid. They typically want 5 days to get it pushed through insurance, but you can sit on the phone while you're on that 4-hour call and say, yeah, but this was a cancellation, so we didn't have 5 days. So what's the backup plan? And interestingly enough, they find a way where there never seems to be a way when they tell you.
That is isn't that the way it goes? You have to, this is a great message. You have to be willing to say, no, that's not acceptable. And, this is not, this, how can it be possibly be rational that we have 90 days when it's a cancellation appointment that's 4 days away?
Exactly.
So, you need to help me make this work. And do you find that if you say things like, can you please help me make this work? My daughter's needs help. If you couch it in help me, do you find that you get better responses than, cussing at them and
I definitely would tell you I've probably had some moments where I was a little forceful that I should have been. At that point, I probably asked for the help me, could you, would you please, with the cherry on top, and you're now talking to the 27th person who does not have a clue what is happening, and you have to retell the story 89 times. So yes, I would tell you, you're always going to catch more flies with honey, absolutely, without question. Today, the way it went was I had to call member services. Member services got the third party on the phone and kind of acted as an intermediary to us because she could tell my frustration level was kind of escalating. And she said to them, we would love it if you could see if there's a back door, if there's an exception to the rule, because that's what I had introduced. I'm like, there must be an exception since this is a cancellation. And she kind of pushed into that more with that person. It took that person getting off, going to talk to somebody for about 10 minutes and then coming back. She said, well, we're going to make a one-time exception. We're going to put it into your chart and notate you are never allowed to call back for another one-time exception. Like, whatever, dude. That is not going to stop me from calling next week. You do not scare me with that rhetoric.
They always try to scare you.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, okay. You put in there whatever your little heart desires. Not going to stop me. Nope. Nope.
So it got approved and you had the appointment or will have the appointment coming up. Yes.
Yep, we have the appointment, and we have the gas covered. The hotel is still a little chaotically questionable, but that's okay. Like, okay, Lord, we're just gonna go along for the ride at this point. We'll sleep in the car if we have to. It's okay.
Yeah, do you remember that song, Don't Worry, Be Happy? Don't
Yep.
worry, be happy. I was listening to it today when I was driving to do errands, and I thought about that. I'm like, there's one line I don't like, which is, into your life some trouble will fall. And I thought, well, okay, but if you focus on trouble, then that's you're just bringing in more of it. But if you focus on just being happy, it allows you to just flow through and breathe and do like you said, just keep at it and make and until things work. Yeah. So you're caregiving and an advocate for your daughter then.
Absolutely. And my dad was recently diagnosed with dementia. And so I'm helping shape that journey a little bit with my mom and their aging as well, which is one of the reasons that we moved back to this area to support them and be available and get to know them more. I mean, we've been gone for 20 years. My kiddo hasn't had that deep connection. It's been a 2 or 3 times a year getting to see them for short periods of time. So I wanted her to be able to say, hey, I want to go fishing with Pop. Okay, let's take you over there. Let's get it done. And have some of those moments of memories.
Yeah.
And, all the while, yes, my super migraine, traumatic brain injury, I actually got some supernatural healing. It was pretty amazing, quite a story in itself. So now my life looks slightly different. And I have some other things that have come up, especially with the cancer. I'm a 4-time survivor. I sport a short haircut so they can always look at the scalp on purpose. And going on 10 years, I think it is. Yeah, 10 years. 10 years in September. 10-year survivor in September. How exciting.
Yeah, that reminds me, I wanted to ask you with the neurofeedback,
Feedback. Mm-hmm.
did that help you? Did that help you with the migraines?
I didn't find it did. I don't think they found it did either. But the stage that they were at, they did not have good directions. So back then it was like looking at the old Atari video screen with a line and a blip. And they just said, stare at the blip. And I'm like, okay, but why? Like, why am I staring at the blip? What am I trying to do with the blip? Like, what is this doing for me? And so I think there was a lack of understanding for that. Today, neurofeedback is very crystal clear. You're looking at a screen and they'll show you movies and music and things like that will allow you to concentrate for the volume in the picture to get bigger or to release. And that's how you're training your brain. So it's a lot different and a lot more effective.
Oh, yeah. Well, you were a pioneer in helping develop that, so.
My claim to fame.
All right, we're gonna pause here and take a quick break, but when we come back, stay tuned. We're gonna talk to Crystal Griffith some more. Stay tuned, everyone.
Everything we're made of contains light. From the sun that feeds our world to the energy that flows within us. With LifeWave X39, we've found a way to put that light to work. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality. By gently stimulating the skin with light, our non-invasive, non-transdermal X39 patches help you conquer your active lifestyle and pave a new way to vibrant health. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. It all starts with your body and a little help from light. Place one LifeWave X39 patch on the body. Apply the patch to clean, dry skin in the morning. Patches may be worn for up to 12 hours before discarding. Keep well hydrated while using this product. Harness your natural potential. Reclaim youthful energy. Live long, live well, live young with LifeWave X39. Be the light. LifeWave.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. We are here with medical mom warrior Crystal Griffith. And Crystal, so I can see how things built and led you kind of like stepping stones on a path. Now, what are you doing now to help people out in the world with medical mom warriors? Like you.
So one of the things that we have done is put together a relief system, a medical stability blueprint that is helping people not only get organized in all the chaos, because the chaos ensues. Unfortunately, there's no ways around it. But if we can be prepared better in the chaos for the next set of chaos moments, then that's going to help everybody feel more relieved when they're in the middle of it and know that it's not as stressful. So here's an example. So one of the things that I really encourage pregnant people to do is actually have the C-section discussion. Now, a lot of people don't want to enter into that conversation. They're like, I'm not having a C-section. It'll all be fine until it's not, like ultimately. And in that moment of crisis, you are having so much information thrown at you, new vocabulary you weren't expecting, diagnoses, decision-making, like quick, right? Because it becomes life or death in that moment. But if you can have that conversation outside of the crisis moment, now you're in control of it. You have better understanding. You can ask better questions around it. You can prepare amply for it. So for me, we found out kiddo was footling breech. And so we did have that conversation on a Friday. We went through a lot of conversation on the following Monday. We spoke with the anesthesiologist. We spoke with the actual surgeon who was going to do the surgery. And I could get my mind wrapped around it outside of the crisis. Now, mind you, it was still emergent for us because she was footling breech, but it wasn't crisis emergent. And there is a difference. Now, I had it scheduled for 7:30 the next morning, and at 12 o'clock when the water broke, I'm feeling a little crisis in the moment, really, and then I get to the lovely hospital, and it looks like Captain Steubing from the Love Boat is on duty now, and not my surgeon. And he has his own long-term 75 years of doctoring ways to do things, and I'm like, no, that is not at all what we talked about, right? So even though I even had part of that conversation, I could still feel the anxiety rising, and I can't advocate as well. And now I'm starting to have contractions, and it was very clear to me, do not push, do not get those contractions. If the baby gets in the birth canal, then we got a bigger issue. Like I'm like starting to process those things. So when you become a medical warrior, and whether that's you chronically ill, you caring for somebody that's a loved one, or even you're in the sandwich generation where you've got a chronically ill kid and a chronically ill parent, right, as a sandwich generation, you are going to have to identify how you're going to function the best in the moment of crisis. And ultimately, it's not about if you're going to be involved in a medical crisis in your life. It truly is about when, because it is such a statistical rarity for someone to live their entire life and not have any medical issue themselves, let alone to their loved one. It's unheard of, even from an academic journal standpoint. So we're talking like infinitesimal. It's not going to happen that way. So how do we best prepare people to do that? So one of the things that we're also working on is a big, I'm so excited about this project, survey that we're putting together for people to identify what they need in caregiving as a chronically ill caregiver for themselves or for someone else, because that's a whole other issue. Now you have chronically ill who are trying to raise kids who are chronically ill. That's a whole nother beast, really. And that is, in short, we have an epidemic that is not being realized on the frontier and the horizon of what's coming. We thought it was caregiving for the boomers. It's really not. It is caregiving for these kids who are coming up on the spectrum. When my kid came along, it was 1 in 65. Now it's 1 in 10. And when you think about that, and now the kids are coming up and having their own kids who are on the spectrum to a worser level, we have an epidemic coming, because these kids, there's a number of them that are not going to be able to live independently. And so how are we going to care for them? What does that look like? Who's funding that? And how are we going to provide for them? And then when you think about it, that means in about technically 3 generations, which is really only 21 years, we may have a lacking group of next generations, because now that second generation of worsening on the spectrum level are not having kids because they're nonverbal, or they're not able to function in life together, or having their own kids. And now what happens? Now you're going to have a hit to the workforce as well. Until somebody really understands the ramifications of what is happening in this caregiving epidemic, we're going to be in really big trouble in about 30 years.
I don't want you to get in any trouble, but do you have an opinion of why this is going on? Or you don't, if you're not allowed to say.
No, I'm always authentic and transparent. I have my own opinions about things. I will say this to you. I did not vaccinate my child because while I was pregnant, my parents themselves had a whole genetic issue that my sister and I are living miracles. I had 2 siblings who passed away who would have had FINS, Down syndrome, and a variety of other things. And then my mom lost some other children as well who also would have been highly deformed. So the fact that my sister and I are normal, if you know us, there's some question there, but we're normal, right? And again, normal is such a state of mind. But from that perspective, when I got pregnant, and it took 10 years to get pregnant, I was very, very concerned. So we did not do an amniocentesis. We were just ecstatic we were pregnant, right? And so I did not do that, but we did do genetic counseling. We made sure that there was no cross-reactivity, like what my parents had experienced and things like that. What we didn't know at the time was her dad had had 4 rounds of the anthrax shot, okay, in the military, about 7 years prior to the time we got pregnant. Now, those are doing mental math already. They're like, okay, well, that was 7 years ago. What's the problem, right? Nope. It alters your DNA and RNA.
Yep.
And not only did it alter it, he also got what's called a bad batch. And it was tainted.
Oh, no.
So it not only altered as what the shot would have done, but now it's altered it, let's just say twice as bad, so to speak. So then we have our kiddo. And so early on at 9 months, starting to have these food allergies. Well, my family doesn't have food allergies. So where did this come from? And then Ehlers-Danlos, and then this crest scleroderma that she has. And then literally 28 different diagnoses. She has hip dysplasia, which we kind of expected that. One foot up, one foot down for 10 weeks. Okay, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But these other things, the autism, the ADHD, I will own, because once she got diagnosed, boy, did that explain a lot of things for me, right? I'll own the ADHD. That's what I'll own. Okay. I probably gave that one to her. I'm so sorry. But, these other things, we actually read a book called VAX-A, and I would encourage your audience to look it up. It is a little more difficult to find because it's kind of on the underground. But VAX-A, about the anthrax shot, you begin to see different correlations to some of the things that my kiddo has, as well as many of her generation grouping from the military. So could it be vaccinations? Yes, potentially the ones they are giving their children, but also the ones that they have had as adults.
Mm-hmm.
The other eye opener I would encourage your audience, and I love what you guys are doing for chronic health. By the way, I use X39s. I'm a firm believer in life. Go get your LifeWave.
Yeah.
Big believer in that. If you look at the GAPS diet, it was written by a double doctorate, and GAPS, and it's a yellow cover, and it looks like an old timey signpost on it. That first 9 chapters of that book were so educational.
What does GAPS diet stand for?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Sorry.
This is where I still have some TBI moments. I'm like, you're going to ask me that, and I'm trying over here really hard to remember what it is.
It's okay. We'll come back. Pressure off.
Yeah, no, it's gone. It's gone. Sorry. You guys will just have to look it up, or we'll put it in the show notes for you. But GAPS, by the double doctorate. I think her name is Natasha, is her first name. But she wrote that first 9 chapters, and it really explains how originally immunizations were designed for a healthy gut. We don't have healthy guts. And I'm not talking about the consumption of what we eat and processed food and all that. I'm just talking about from a life. Our guts are not healthy because I had shots as a kid. My mom gave me shots, right? So now I automatically do not have a healthy gut. And then her dad not only had his shots as a kid, but now also the shots as the military, bringing his part to the table, right? Mm-hmm. And so now those are combining to make her, right? So it's just this, ongoing downhill spiral. Mm-hmm. And I do think you can trace heavy metals. You are going to need to detox them. I wish I could convince some family members to get on a detox program, because I think there would be some radical changes in the brain components of what they're experiencing. Yeah. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink.
Exactly. I live that in my life too. Yeah. I actually am a caregiver. My mom is 87 and she's with me, but she doesn't have any dementia. So I am profoundly grateful, because I think that is very difficult to deal with. And I know she's got a physical disability, but not mental. I was very grateful for that. So I agree with you. We detox, and we're working on one right now for the liver. So yeah.
Well, yeah. I have it for you. GAPS, the Gut and Psychology Syndrome. And it was developed by Natasha. I was right on the Natasha Campbell McBride.
And say that again. Gut and
Psychology Syndrome. GAPS.
I knew you would get it if we just backed off of it for a second.
I taught college for 30 years after this traumatic brain injury. And again, this is where you turn pain into purpose, right? So I go in there, and many people who have disabilities do not want to ask for help. They somehow think it's a sign of weakness. I am not that person. I am telling you all day long, go get the labels. You're going to get the resources. You're going to get the support that you need to be successful. And so I would walk in there and I'm like, okay, guys, so we're going to play this little game. I've had a brain injury, and there's going to be times where Crystal is going to look at you, and we're going to play the game. What's the word Crystal was looking for next? To participate. And we all get to try and figure out what word Crystal is going to say next. So we have fun with it. And then I tell them, and use your accommodations on your college campuses. That's what they're there for. And, those accommodations, whether you're in the workplace or whether you're in school, are so important. They're not a sign of weakness. And mobility aids are not a sign of weakness. And let me just say, who cares what other people think? If you need that crutch, if you need that wheelchair, if you need that brace, put it on, use it all day long, all day long. Don't think twice.
Yeah.
Don't think twice. They're not living your life. They're not living your pain. They're not living where you want to go and how successful you want to be. And some days, just to make it through the parking lot into the store, you're running a marathon, right?
Yeah.
But if you have some tool or aid that helps you get there in half the time, why wouldn't you use it?
Yeah.
Who cares what other people think?
Yeah.
In just my other soapbox, if somebody is parking in a handicapped spot and they have a tag, whether on their car or hanging, and they get out and are walking, do not say one word to them. You do not know what they are walking through.
Right.
My kid can get out and walk into the store, and I'm going to have to put her in a cart to get her back to the car.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how well she's going to walk to the car. But
Right.
she wants to be as independent as possible. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
I'll help you get back to the car.
I'm the one that goes into stores and say, you do not have enough handicap parking spaces. One spot per row is not enough. And they don't listen. We comply with the federal mandate. Well, it's not good enough. Because my mom is, although I will say that when my mom is not with me, I do not park in handicapped. I only park in handicap when she's with me, because I know how hard it is not to find a space when you need it.
Yep.
So, but this has been a great conversation, Crystal. Thank you so much for your openness and honesty and transparency. It's been really amazing.
Privileged to be here. Thank you so much.
What's the best way for people to find you out in the world?
Super easy. medicalmomwarriors.com. You'll see all the books. You'll see the resources. You'll see how to get a hold of me and other lovely chats that I've had just like today.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you. Again, really great conversation. Okay, everybody. That's it for today. Join us every Friday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time at E360 TV on the Vitality TV network, or you can always find us on YouTube at Chronically Healthy Life. You can swing by chronicallyhealthylife.com this week to elevate your longevity, and check out our brand new healing skincare line at coolness.com. Until then, stay vibrant, stay fierce, and stay ridiculously, unapologetically, chronically healthy. See you next time.